Hi, everybody. This is Loren Baker with the Search Engine Journal Show. Welcome to today's episode. We'll be talking to Asia Frost and Justin Champion from HubSpot, and really about almost like a case study of how they launched CMS free and learnings they had from that, especially on the SEO planning side, SEO strategy, and then execution of everything across the board. Before we get started, though, I'd love to give the two of you a chance to introduce yourselves. Let's start with Asia.
Sure. Thanks, Lauren. I joined HubSpot back in 2016. I actually started on the sales blog as a writer with no background in SEO, but became very interested in SEO. As probably most folks listening to this or watching this know, then there's a very tight union between writing and SEO. So became interested in that and moved over to the SEO team in 2017, and now have the enormous privilege of running the English growth team, which is comprised of 3 SEO teams and 1 growth team, hence the name. So I work very closely with Justin, who is the head of link building, one of the teams under the English growth umbrella here at HubSpot. And he's actually been at HubSpot even longer than I have.
Yeah. Thanks, Asia. I started working in digital marketing back in 2010, and that's actually when I found HubSpot. I was given a sales job without any training, and pre-HubSpot Academy, which is the educational department for HubSpot nowadays. They had Inbound Marketing University, where it was 12 recorded webinars that taught you how to do inbound marketing, and my life was changed after that. I was like, wow, blown away. Became a really big fan of HubSpot after that, and then few years later, I actually moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and started working at HubSpot in 2014. Been a great journey, great place to work. Now I am, like Asia said, on the EN growth team, managing the link building efforts.
Amazing. Well, it's great to meet the both of you. We're big fans of HubSpot. Wow, the shade of my room just changed. I don't know why. Maybe it's cloudy outside. We're big fans of HubSpot here at SEJ, and I really enjoy listening to stories and case studies, or post-op oriented studies where we're talking about projects that have been launched on the small scale, on the big scale, integrated SEO strategies into that. And you all had let us know that you had launched your CMS free. So if you get into exactly what CMS free is and consider this a free chance to tell the world about CMS free from HubSpot, that would be fantastic. And then we'll get into the learnings and observations from that launch.
Yeah. First, can I just say that every time someone says free, a little bell in my brain just chimes. I just, probably because our work is so oriented around free, I'm like, yes, more free. But the free CMS, and I'll let Justin weigh in too, of course, but it is a free drag and drop website builder. HubSpot has had a CMS for a while, but starting in the summer of 2022, then we introduced a freemium version. And we are obviously biased, especially because now everyone knows we've both been at HubSpot for some time. But this is a incredibly cool website builder with a lot of features at the freemium level that most other website builders don't have. So I think that's the highlight for me. Anything you'd add to that, Justin, while we have our free advertisement?
Yeah, I would say when I started at HubSpot is when the CRM came out, and I haven't seen a launch that has had this much attention on it since the CRM. And I think, like you said, the features are really what set this CMS apart from other free CMSs in the marketplace. It has a free custom domain, it has free web hosting, it has free SSL. So when you're thinking about launching a website that, if you're a brand new business, that maybe you're just getting started, the cool thing is that you can have a sales arm, you can have a marketing arm that fit right into your CMS. And as your business grows, it grows with it. So you don't have to, you're essentially cutting out that friction and not having to deal with that as a business owner of what do I do as my business goes from 10 employees to 100 employees, and even like the same thing with customers, which I think is really great.
Amazing, amazing. So while we were planning out this episode, you had let us know that there a lot of what you feel to be unique SEO plays that were incorporated into this rollout and can be replicated for almost any company or project, regardless of size and budget. Would you like to get into one of the first aspects of that rollout that can help with overall SEO that I believe has something to do with search volume?
Yeah. So I will set the stage by describing how we worked with product to bring features down to freemium prior to the free CMS launch. And SEO and growth on the marketing side have had a fairly close relationship with our product team over the years. But typically, how the process would go is that product would say, hey, we are going to release this to freemium, or we are thinking of releasing this to freemium. What do y'all think? And then we'd say, oh, yeah, there's a lot of search potential here. Or, no, it's not super compelling from a search perspective, but from a user perspective, it sounds like you should do it. So go ahead. And this was the first time that SEO and growth went way earlier in the creation process to inform what features were actually part of the consideration to begin with. So we did a full-fledged analysis of the CMS market, all the features that were available, and then worked with product to prioritize them, both on what would be compelling to the user and what has search volume, so that there was no back and forth at the, okay, yes, this is compelling. No, this is not stage. That had already been that had been on the whiteboard since the get-go. And I think that process is probably way easier if you are a smaller, leaner operation, because for us, that's like getting 300 people all moving in the same direction. Sometimes it feels like Justin and I are like running around decks on a cruise ship, trying to orient people and trying to find our way to everyone else. And, if you have enough people that you're all sitting in 1 to 2 rooms, virtually or in person, I think that conversation is much easier to have.
And that's really getting buy-in from product, from brand, everyone else, right? Because it's really easy to look at well, not easy, but to look at search volume results within a tool like Ahrefs, SEMrush, Moz, whatever it may be. Like, oh, we should definitely go after this. And then you're looking at the questions that they also bring up too. Like the people also ask oriented questions. We're like, well, if we use this as the header and this is H2, and then we incorporate these questions, and then the FAQ section, we pretty much have everything focused. And then, brand might be like, whoa, we don't want to talk about this, or this doesn't necessarily hit our core, or whatever it may be. So do you typically find that those discussions just take more time because of contacting and tracking down folks? Or is it like something that you really have to get buy-in for? And how important is it to educate other stakeholders on the importance of this being something that is attractive to Google in terms of, or maybe even Bing, right? With so many people using Teams now, in terms of the terms that folks are actually looking for, as opposed to maybe brand relevant terms, or terms that are identified and created internally that the prospective user may not even use.
I think there are 2 pieces here. The first is, convincing product that they should be incorporating SEO in the first place. And getting to that point, that is not a journey that we started in 2022. It's something that we started. I mean, that conversation has been happening before I got to HubSpot. Probably when Justin first got to HubSpot, that's when we were first starting to have this conversation. But over time, we're able to show product the difference between features that had search volume and features that didn't. And that's not to say that a feature that doesn't have inherent search demand can't be successful and have high usage. I mean, as I alluded to, then there are reasons to create features far beyond SEO. And I think Justin and I are both well aware of that. But we could show the multiplier effect that search could have. And as time went on and we kept having these conversations, and you kept seeing kind of the fork in the road for the features with acquisition potential versus the features that kind of have to generate potential just by being compelling, then products started coming to us rather than the other way around. So I would say for anyone who is just starting that conversation, can you prove out the difference? Do you have 2 examples or 2+ examples of features or services that you've offered where people are looking for them versus features or services that you're offering because you think your customer wants them, but they're not necessarily out on Google looking? And, can you show the team making the decisions, the difference between those to prove, yeah, you'll get an immediate boost when there's search volume, and who on product doesn't want an immediate boost? The second
Anything to add
piece,
there, Justin? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna punt it over to Justin for the second piece, which is actually the search demand. This is, I think, a somewhat unique benefit to HubSpot, but the search demand we can create. I know you have some thoughts there, Justin.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things is first, it's not all about SEO and demand because you still need to solve for the human who's using the tool, and then also what's the differentiator versus your CMS versus competitor CMS. So I think looking at all those different aspects, and like Asia said, understanding the search demand is helpful because it can help give a leg up, or it can help also give a boost as well. Now, I think with this specifically, one thing I really find interesting that not a lot of companies do is that we have a feature page specifically for each one of we call it a feature page, but it's essentially a product page for each one of the features. So instead of just trying to have one page that you're trying to rank for all these different features, we essentially have 11 different features with our CMS, and then we have 11 different feature pages. So it helps you actually create pages where they can provide value. And then from an SEO perspective, it makes it a lot easier to be able to get those pages ranking versus trying to have one page that's ranking for everything. Sometimes you'll see sources where they have a comprehensive page where they're trying to rank for everything, but our approach is really how can we provide value, specifically call it this feature, the value of the feature itself, and then trying to get those pages to rank, which actually just makes the process a little bit easier for us when we're thinking about trying to build authority to the page. But then it also helps for people who are looking for that specific feature, which you can actually find. You might find the monthly search volume being in the hundreds of thousands for some of these features, and you can talk about that feature versus trying to sell the whole platform as a whole.
I have a question for you. So it can be really enticing when you're looking at a report and you see that like there's a search volume around 100,000, right? And there are some sites out there, such as HubSpot or to a degree SEJ, that have a head start to be able to rank for some of these terms, right? With just some great content, internal linking, whatever it may be. Now, what about, so let's say like your head term has like 100,000 search volume. And then like, as you're going down the list, you see like modifiers of that or whatever it may be drop to about 50,000, 20,000. And then there's like a lot that are in the single digit thousands, and then it dips into the hundreds. If someone is, how important are those, that middle group to your overall planning? Do you go for the head term, or do you go for different modifiers of the head term, which may give you maybe the ability to rank a little bit quicker on that end?
Yeah. Do you want to take it, Age, or are you okay if I?
No, go for it.
I think from this perspective, I think it's helpful to think about the intention of the page and ultimately what it is that you're going to be talking about. I learned early in my days of SEO that you want to write for the human, but thinking about specifically the different types of modifiers of how to increase the relevancy of the specific page you're going for. So I do think it's important to do analysis with the head term, all the different modifiers, those different long tail keywords, and think about if you're going to group these together, what is going to be your biggest possible impact, right? Like if you're thinking about those modifiers, can you optimize the page in a way where you're optimizing it for those specific modifiers? Now, one thing I specifically look at as a vested interest with link building is what is the keyword difficulty of some of these pages that we're trying, or these keywords that we're trying to rank for? Because it's not just about MSV sometimes or monthly search volume. It's about how difficult is it, like how hard is this hill going to be to climb that we're ultimately trying to rank for. Once we're able to find the keyword difficulty, that's kind of the first barometer. But then the second thing is actually doing analysis of how many quality inbound links to these pages have, not the sheer volume. You might find that some pages have in the tens of thousands of links, but when you actually distill it down to the links that are quality, meaning that they're coming from reputable sites on pages of those sites that are healthy, maybe they're getting 1,000 visits from organic traffic, you might find that those are actually less than 100 or fewer than 100. And I think looking at optimizing the page for the modifiers, maximizing the potential of that, where you're not keyword stuffing, obviously, looking at the keyword difficulty of those, and then trying to ultimately figure out how many high quality links are we going to need to build to be competitive here. I think that those are the three things that I'm most interested in.
Very cool. Very cool. And one more question about volume is search intent, right? So almost every tool now, when you're doing a keyword research project, in addition to that monthly search volume, there's also the identified intent, right? Typically transactional, informational, or navigational, or commerce, commercial, depending upon the tool. Now, if you're building a strategy for a landing page, does the intent necessarily impact your strategy? Do you do anything differently with more informational intent queries than you would with transactional? How do you typically handle that from a planning and content execution perspective?
Yeah. I have a hot take around the search intent categories that most tools use. I think they are too broad to be useful. If you look at the typical SERP, there is not one search intent. And even if it looks like all of the content on the page is somehow designed to inform, there are many different nuances or shades of informational intent. And so there are many, many things that I think you can outsource to tools. One that I recommend SEOs do not is trying to decipher search intent. I think the best way to understand what someone is looking for is just to look at the SERP and then ask yourself, what is the format and meaning of the content that's ranking, and how do I match that? And it doesn't necessarily have to be that there are a bunch of blog posts ranking for a keyword that you want to rank your product page for. The way that we've done that, we're like, well, we want people to find our product page from this query. So we don't actually really care if you're coming in for a blog post, because that's not where we want you to end up. So how do we make our product pages more blog post like, so that they will rank, and then we'll bring someone in for that keyword?
I agree. I really like taking a hybrid approach from time to time, because like the SERPs themselves are always changing, right? So
Yeah.
putting all of your eggs in one search intent basket may work for a may work for a shorter period of time, but can really come back to bite you in the end, especially as that's changing. But then like having some of the same data points that are, so I always see this in SaaS, right? You do a search for like a SaaS, like, what's the best single sign-on software solution, or just single sign-on software. And you basically get a list of companies or publishers that are all writing the same exact article: 10 best single sign-on solutions, 9 best SSO software solutions, 11 of the top SSO. Like it's the same exact list over and over and over again. And what I found is by sometimes taking some of the same data points that are within those lists or articles and then applying them to a transactional page, you can actually get that to rank.
Yes.
So having like little things like comparisons or ratings or reviews and things like that, like integrated within the page itself, are nested underneath the page from within the same subfolder as the page, right? So you're basically supporting the head of that subfolder chain, I guess. Can be helpful on that end too. But yeah, I do agree. You can't like put all your eggs in one basket, especially if it's tool driven. So this kind of gets me into the next question as well. And I see this a lot on e-commerce, and I've done this on e-commerce, but not necessarily on e-commerce oriented sites like B2C sites, but not necessarily on the tech or SaaS side. Is it looks like you guys did some pre-launching of pages ahead of the product launch itself to get a little bit of a head start. Could you walk me through that effort, what you did, how it worked, and what the results were?
Yeah, I'll start with the page creation side, and then I'll let Justin speak to the link building efforts. Um, This was a new play for us too. And it was new, not because we never thought it was a good idea before, but because we were convinced that our legal team would say no. Obviously, with ecom, if you have a shoe coming back in stock or you have a new drop coming, then you want that element of anticipation. With product launches, not always. But to our great surprise and delight, legal was like, yeah, you can do that. So we said, sweet, we're going to do that. So our product launch, like I said, was in the summer. We launched these pages as quickly as we could. Basically, as soon as we got approval, then we started putting these pages together and described what the features would be able to do to the best of our ability, even though they weren't created yet. Used placeholder images, basically created like as quick and dirty again as legal and brand would let us pages to put up and get live. And it was at that point that the link building team took the baton, and that's really why we wanted to create these pages early, so that Justin's team could have as much time as possible to get these pages ranking. So I'll let you take it over, Justin.
Yeah, and there's two different types of link building. There's internal link building, and there's backlinking, also known as like inbound links. So it's going to be really hard to try and build inbound links to a product page. So especially if the product doesn't exist. So the thing that we first started off with is right as that page was launched, we did an analysis of all the different relevant. So HubSpot's got a lot of different, subdomains, a lot of different places where we can actually do internal linking. And that was the first thing we did, was we were just looking for the low hanging fruit of being able to do some internal linking, which we actually found with one of our pages. We have a free CMS tools page. And within the first 45 days, we were able to get that page ranking. I believe it was in the first position for free CMS with just our internal linking. And that was just helping us build that URL rating up. So when you're doing internal linking, it's not as valuable as doing the inbound links, but it does still really help. It can help send traffic to the page. It can help send authority to the page. And right when we were anticipating the launch happening, so our team was actually finding all the different relationships that we could be working with to do inbound links. One thing about HubSpot's link building team is we're not transactional. We're very relationship based. A lot of teams will reach out and say, hey, we saw that you had a broken link on your site. And that strategy is so oversaturated that we find much more value in investing in relationships, so that when something happens where a page like this comes out, we can be able to tap into resources and be able to build inbound links really quickly to the page, and which is exactly what we did once these pages launched. So having the pages available before the products were available were helpful, because we were able to do an internal linking strategy. And then it also gave us time to start forming relationships to do an inbound linking strategy within the first week once those products were live.
Excellent.
I think
Now,
it's also
go ahead.
I think there's a self-perpetuating cycle around doing the internal linking and getting the rankings up, and then starting those conversations with external sites. Because if I am getting a request to link to a page and it's a random page with no backlinks, no traffic, I would have to really like you. It would have to be a really good relationship. Whereas if you say, oh, this is the page we want to link to, and I can see it's already ranking for some high volume competitive keywords, it already has kind of a stamp of credibility on it, even though unbeknownst to the person that you're asking, it's a stamp of credibility that we gave the page ourselves.
Couple questions around that. One, were you able to get the page listed in the main navigation
of HubSpot.com?
Yes.
To my knowledge, Asia, I don't believe we did. This was just the navigation, as I'm sure you can understand, is very, for HubSpot, has to be very intentional. We want to make sure that we're not stuffing it with different things. And with that, it takes time. But Asia, I'll let you weigh in on the actual navigation piece.
Yeah. So as Justin said, we have 11 feature pages covering a different aspect of the free CMS. And then we have a free CMS page, and then we have the CMS page. The CMS page is linked to in the nav. It has been since that product was launched years ago. We are right now in the process of adding one of the CMS pages to the footer. And to Justin's point, it's a careful negotiation. There's very limited real estate on the
Yeah.
So we wanted to see which page we really wanted to put that firepower toward before we added it in the nav. So we now have, I guess, 3.5, nearly 4 months of data. We know which page we want to put. You can go to HubSpot's footer probably next week and see which one it is if you're curious.
That's great. The magical power of footer links, often overlooked, once implemented, greatly appreciated by SEOs. So
Yeah.
footer links, I mean, it sounds very 2003 or something, but
Yeah, I know.
get in the footer, because most of the time navigation has to be rendered regardless and everything else. Like the footer link is just so like simple HTML traditional link on like mostly every page of the site. It can be a beautiful thing. Another question is
2001. No, I'm just
I know. Yeah. Oh yeah, like if they don't want it, if no one wants to put it in the footer, yeah, just make sure, yeah, transparent text. Same
down
as
there. Brand will never notice.
Do not do that. Next question is also, did you make before the product launch, did you make the pages indexable and include them in the XML sitemap? You did.
Yes. Yeah. We were like, if we're gonna build links to them, then they should be indexable. There was some language around. I mean, I guess we did use the Nike strategy somewhat in that there was, sign up to be notified when this product launches. But
Yeah,
we wanted them to be findable, crawlable, rankable.
amazing. So yeah, I've done this a little bit on the B2C side. So especially with like Shopify sites, there's so many apps out there that Shopify utilizes to like just to set up a coming soon product page and pre-launch it. So like if the product cannot be purchased, someone can sign up and utilize their email address, which is great. And it basically is that Nike strategy. So for those of you that are listening or watching, the Nike strategy is Nike has two apps, the Nike app and then the Sneakers app. The Sneakers app never has anything in it when you go to search for it, maybe like some sneakers that you don't want. But then you'll see a bunch of stuff that's coming. Like, yeah, it's like Air Max Retro 2 lows or something that no one wants to buy. But then you'll see like coming soon, and it'll be like some really cool like Jordans or something on the way, but you have to sign up, right, to be alerted. So it's the same exact technique that you can that was utilized for CMS free at HubSpot, but can also be utilized, very easily within a Shopify store. If you're about to launch a new product, set up that page, get that page indexable. Instead of the buy now button, have the coming soon alert me when this drops. People can enter their email address. It's so many wins because one, you get to get things indexed. Two, same thing you guys are talking about right now. You can build internal links. You can start with external linking. What's that? Internal links are there. And then, I've even seen, I know that Google utilizes, in stock pricing, all of that when considering products. But I've seen some of these grow, especially when you have a much like larger brand or an established site. You see them start to grow. But the great thing is like once you launch the product and all that information is then entered into it, first of all, you hit that email list. So those people that want to buy, they're going to buy. And then secondly, you already have a head start. You might be in like the page 3 or the bottom of page 2, or even in your case, the number 1 position for the term that you're going after. But once you add everything and like start aggressively marketing it, it's better than starting in the hundreds and moving your way up. So huge proponent of the coming soon page. And more importantly, a micro or macro conversion around that, right? Because that's the user experience metric that's incredibly usable, and we all know is very important at the end of the day. The next is, what are some ways that you all improved the value of the pages that are linking to you as part of this link building system? You had brought that up as well. Is this internal or external linking to the CMS free section of the site? And then how did you improve that value?
This is all Justin. So I'll let you talk.
Yes. So over the years with HubSpot, I've been a guest blogger on different topics. And through that time, I realized that a lot of sources, that the more authoritative the source you're going to write for, the more strict they are with guidelines for
Mhm.
the content that you can create, right? Like you always want to create helpful content for them first, but it's helpful to also get a link back. And most sources will say, we'll give you one link back to your website. And one of the link building team strategies is doing guest blogging, and we have lots of different pieces of content out there that are all really valuable pieces of content. And when a source is telling us that we're able to do link to one, link back to maybe one of our pages, well, what about all those other links in the article? You got to link to somebody, you got to link to different examples. And so one strategy we have is building links from our guest posts to our different, whether they're guest posts or even our partner pages if it's helping us with the relationship. That's why I say we invest in relationships, because if you guest blog with somebody and then 4 weeks later I'm coming back not asking anything from you and saying, hey, we actually just placed another guest post, we linked back to your site, now we're doing link building for you.
Oh,
So on one side it helps the relationship, but then it's also increasing the value of that post. Our goal is always to try to place links on pages that are healthy. If it's a new site or if it's a new page on a website, there's no monthly search, or there's no traffic coming in, we're trying to get that page over 1,000 MSV from organic search. So if we're optimizing that page with our link building efforts with our guest blogging, then it's actually helping us with the link that's placed on the page, but it's also increasing our value of the relationship as well. So there's a lot of different pros to that approach of using guest blogging by linking back to your site, but then also linking strategically through the article. There's not any shady thing happening here as much as you're just finding articles that think could also be helpful and bring value to the article, but it just also happens that the link that you're putting in the article, you actually have a link in.
So if you
brilliant.
have a web and some of those are HubSpot strings and others are external website strings, and you're kind of intentionally going through and reinforcing different parts of the web, and all parts of the web lead back to the free CMS at the beginning. Not to make you a spider, Justin.
No, that's fine. That's good. I like that. I like that analogy.
It's like a flow chart, but everybody ends up in the same finish location, right? So
Yeah.
excellent.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly.
What else can SEOs do to better their? I mean, you're so relationship based. And Justin, how long have you been at HubSpot again?
Coming up on 8 years in November.
Okay, so that's given you plenty of time to work on establishing these relationships. So, um, what else can SEOs do that are performing outreach or guest posting or working with publishers to better help those publishers not only make that link more valuable, but maybe to, I don't know, earn trust or just build a better relationship or help that publisher have a just a better site at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think there's two things. The first thing is always asking what you can do to help this other person. I think instead of leading with what you're trying to accomplish, trying to understand this other person, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, and it's very much inbound, right? I think it's kind of funny. HubSpot coined inbound, the whole idea of being helpful, and Dharmesh said it really well years ago, and it's always stuck in my head with. And I try and have this as a mantra for everything that I do. I would say personally and even in my career, it's providing value before extracting value. So when you think about the strategy of link exchanges, for instance, link exchanges is really, or no, let's do a different one. Link exchanges is where you're saying, hey, we have a website where we have pages on it that we can offer links in exchange for links from your site. So we always try to offer web pages that offer a little bit more value to really show our partners that we care for them. But I think one play that if for listeners who might do this approach where maybe you're reaching out to a site that has either mentioning you or there's a link that you want to change, instead of just asking for something, try and see if you can provide value back. So thinking about what I was talking about with that guest blogging strategy, imagine if you were to say reach out to somebody and say, hey, here's this article that I have. It could be helpful for your site if you want to link here. And in return, I'll actually link to that page for you from our site from this page. By doing that, you're showing them that you care about the relationship, but then you're also strategically helping yourself because you're building authority to a page that's actually going to link back to you. So I think trying to find ways of understanding what does success look like for this other person, whatever that looks like, But in a link building world, trying to offer value versus just trying to extract value, I think is what's going to help in the long run. You might have some quick wins, but in the long run, I think that approach is going to help you.
I
I
really
was
like that. Go ahead. Age.
Well, I was thinking, and this is based on something that Justin's team was also doing, but I feel like right now people can lean into relationships that they're forming in person in a way that they never have before, because we have been so starved of human connection that any connection you're making in person, at least to me, feels 5 times more powerful. And so something that Justin's team was doing at Inbound was having conversations, trying to kindle relationships that could lead to link building relationships. And if I was, the link builder for a small site or a newer agency, and I didn't have a ton to go off of, maybe I can't offer these reciprocal relationships because I have nothing to reciprocate with yet. I think one way that you could shortcut that would be to really lean into conferences or lean into people that you can get to with a drive or a train ride, meet them in person, establish a connection, and then try to build links through them. Basically using that in-person relationship to strengthen the connection.
Yeah, I like that. I think they can often be overlooked. Also, I feel that to a degree that I have so many conversations with SEOs that have maybe got into this practice within the past 5 or 6 years that are very afraid to almost do anything that's like link building oriented. Like they're afraid to quote unquote break the rules. Like whose rules? I don't know who they are, but like to break the rules. Like, we don't want to do that. That's a link scheme. We don't want to do that. But at the end of the day, basically this is marketing, right? So to your point, like one thing that you said, Justin, that really got my attention is like focusing, like adding them or showcasing them on in a partner's area of the site. Like that's not a link scheme. That is traditional marketing where you're showcasing a partner, right? And linking to them. And I've so many companies I've consulted where we've brought this up and it's just been like, oh, don't we have to no follow that? I'm like, why? Why would you ever no follow a link to your partner? Like, oh, because they're paying to be our partner. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, stop trying to play everything way too safe at the end of the day, because what happens is if you do that, you're not going to get anything done, right? So I don't know. I'm off of a tangent here, but it's refreshing to hear this, because what someone may see as a link from an SEO perspective, yeah, that's great. But if someone's reading the partner page and they click over to that partner and sign up or integrate or something like that, that's even better. That's even better marketing, right? So I think as long as it's incredibly natural and useful to the user at the end of the day, it just makes complete sense everywhere. So that's really interesting to hear from the link perspective. And the fourth and final point in the list of what you all had put together as part of this was incentivizing user-generated content around your highest priority keywords, which for this project were website themes and templates. So could you get into a little bit of what you mean by user-generated content there, how you incentivize for user-generated content, and how this helped you with overall rankings and then client acquisition?
Yeah. I will start out with a massive caveat. It is always easier to generate high quality user-generated content if you already have a thriving ecosystem. So
Right.
I'll talk about how HubSpot did this, and then maybe we can get into some ideas for how companies without necessarily those really large, healthy ecosystems could do this. So what we did, again, during the keyword research process and as part of our general CMS strategy, we knew that we really wanted to offer CMS users high quality website themes and templates so they could get started with a free CMS right away. And that was something that we were also seeing our competitors, other website builders that had really high usage doing. However, we didn't want to create all of those website themes and templates ourselves. And we also have lots of solutions partners and agencies that are doing that work for clients already and would like to use website themes and templates either for revenue generation or as leads for their own practices. So we first identified all the categories that we wanted website themes and templates in, again, determined by A, search volume, and B, alignment with our target user persona. And then we incentivized the agencies and partners in our ecosystem to create corresponding templates. So what that looks like in plain English is me saying, we really want website themes and templates for e-com, beauty companies. And then we would, get 10 to 20 website themes and templates in that category. And then we move on to the next one. And then we move on to the next one. And we knew that if we did this long enough and with good quality assets, at some point, the organic flywheel would take over and we would have agencies and partners starting to submit those templates of their own accord because we were sending traffic to website themes and templates, because people were discovering that category of our site of their own accord. It would become a compelling part of the ecosystem to enter for all agencies and partners.
Anything to add there, Justin?
No, I think it's really helpful to just think about it from the perspective of all the different use cases of where the themes can be helpful, and then ultimately that helps us in the long run of being able to get examples back. So you put the effort in the short term. Once you get it, then in the long term, we'll be able to get secure examples. And I'm sure we're even going to be able to get more value out of it even down the road as more people start to adopt the platform.
So you basically incentivized people to put together templates that were targeted towards the same verticals that their clients or they may be working on, and then they started building their own templates and adding it to your template library, or did they start linking to those templates?
They created them and then host them within the website themes and templates marketplace. Okay. And we have a pretty extraordinary team, I should mention, that is responsible for the relationship management with those partner agencies and QAing those website themes and templates and like actually getting them marked up correctly in the marketplace. So this is a huge, huge team effort. But the original idea behind this, at least from the SEO perspective, was let's rank for website themes and templates in all of these verticals and in all of these categories, because that will help people discover the free CMS.
Very cool. I'm actually working on a similar project right now with a resume template company. So what we're doing, it's not the exact same, but we're going out and working with publisher partners and then other companies that basically we can create templates that hit their customers and then they're promoting. So for example, let's say, well, let me think of something. So like nursing templates, right? So there's so many nursing certification, schools, programs, things like that. So like going out to one of these schools and saying, hey, we can put together and generate like resume templates that have your brand on them. They're for your students, but they're hosted back on this site. In exchange, we just want to feature it on your website and then have you blast it out to your students or whatever and give them an offer or whatever to be able to utilize it. And the reaction's been quite positive thus far. And by breaking it down in one thing I really like doing with link building is breaking it down in the verticals, right? Mm-hmm. Because I don't do directory listings, but if you're looking for like a directory of publishers, it's all broken down in the verticals. Google started utilizing, DMOZ as their way to figure out verticals, things like that early on. And then if you go to a library, everything's broken down in the verticals, whether they're doing the decimal system or whatever the other thing is. Like that's how the world is organized, right? So by doing that, you can say if you're a SaaS tool, you can break down all the different verticals everywhere that utilize you, maybe put together landing pages or articles or tips for those verticals, and then just put together lists of companies and publishers and everything else within those verticals as well. and reach out to them about it, informing them. And at the same time, you may not get a link, but they may share it internally. They may blast it in their email. I work with, I've done so much linking over the years that it's really funny. Like when you're working with an SEO team or maybe an outreach team, sometimes they don't see the value in something like a company sending out an email, or they don't see the value in someone replying, "Oh, that's a fantastic resource. We can't link to it, but we'll definitely share it on social media." Right. And then like an SEO link building outreach person is like, "Oh, darn, I didn't get the link, but they shared it on social media." Like, yes, that's a win. That's a win. This is all wins at the end of the day, because you're introducing your solution to your target market. And it just goes back to smart marketing. And then I'm a big proponent of Chrome user data helping with overall rankings with Crux. So all theoretical, but I think it's definitely a thing based upon everything that I've seen. So, one other thing is, so I just did a search and I dropped a link to HubSpot CMS free. I noticed when I searched for HubSpot CMS free, I got an ad at the top. How influential do you think it is to go out and advertise and get traffic to a landing page or a section of the site upon launch? Do you think it helps with Google and being organic discovery, or unrelated, or what are your thoughts on that end?
Yeah. Well, I think here's what we know. Google's on the record as saying that any paid traffic does not influence your organic rankings. Nonetheless, when you have a position in both the ad section and the organic section, I think it's also pretty well known that that increases your organic click-through rate. And we have mapped the relationship. I would urge anyone who's listening to this who ranks in both with both ads and an organic listing for one query to map the relationship between spend and click-through rate, because when we turn it off, we can tell. So I think if you have the budget, do it. Like, who's going to say no to higher click-through rate? But it's not like you're sabotaging yourself if you don't also have an ad. Especially if it's a branded keyword and you think you're probably already going to get that click.
Yeah, you don't want to do it for every single page, right? Like it's you're using your paid spend strategically. Like you're going to get a better cost for your CPC because the landing page is optimized. You're trying to get that one to rank, but then also it's like Asia said, it's just helpful. I think the first stat I ever heard when you use PPC and SEO at the same time was like 30% more likely that you're going to get clicks to your site. This was like in the early days, and I think that's what always piqued my interest with it. But then the other thing is, Loren, I think you actually said HubSpot's free CMS. And imagine if you type that in the first 3 ads, if we weren't showing there, how many clicks would we be missing? Because even if we're ranking number 1, we're halfway down on the page. So that's where the strategy comes in of like looking at the page, looking at the conversion rate. Is it branded? You're probably going to get a better cost on it. So being strategic with your spend and thinking about, especially if it's branded, because other people, I'd be curious to know, I haven't even looked at it, but the ads that are showing up that aren't HubSpot that are trying to talk about their free CMS.
Yes, that's what I just looked at. So the first time I searched for HubSpot CMS free, which is the name of the product, and the only ad was a HubSpot ad. The second time I searched for HubSpot free CMS. So here are the ads that show up. Actually, I searched for HubSpot. I put in an extra U.
There we go. Okay, maybe we should add that one to the paid list, Asia.
So HubSpot is number 1 for ads. Number 2 is Contentful, free CMS tools. And then number 3 is Pipedrive. I'm not going to read what's in their copy, but it's fair. You might want to search for this right now. Yeah, they're bringing up some things about your brand, which is kind of interesting.
They've been known to do that. I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
But what can you do but be the bigger brand?
I was gonna say,
That's
yeah,
true.
you won't see HubSpot really doing ads like that.
Yeah. But one thing I definitely noticed here, and this is a plus, I believe this is a plus in the whole like PPC and SEO integration thing, is that your landing page for your ad, I believe, let me just click to make sure, because sometimes you have the visual and then not. Yeah, your landing page for your ad is the same page as your organic listing. So I see this as being a huge plus, because what I also see happening quite a bit, especially with companies that are doing a ton of PPC, is that we do get links and shares naturally. Like, you don't always have to incentivize or email someone. Actually, probably get like more links that you're not happy with from people doing it naturally. So there, people do like find a site and then write about it, or search Google and then sometimes click the link from that paid ad and then include that in a blog post on their own. If that paid ad is something, it's, I mean, your HubSpot. So I'm sure you have this whole like lead flow system figured out on the core site. But a lot of the time what I see is that paid ad will go to, like, if it's a commerce, it will go to like a Zipify or Instapage landing page or something like that, on a subdomain, or maybe its own like specific PPC oriented subfolder. And then suddenly what's happening is that, like, yeah, people will link to that. People will pick it up. Of course, the results are scraped. They're found all over the place, whatever it may be. In this case, if someone does click the ad and go to that page and maybe shares it with their friends, tweets about it, links to it, you're getting the benefit from the SEO side of the house as well, which is, it's a great ability to double dip there, I would think.
Yeah, I think there are pros and cons to this approach. And obviously pros, which is why we're doing it. We don't do it universally. Some of our ads lead to paid specific landing pages. And I think the pros of a paid specific landing page is that you can do way more A/B testing. Like, we're always cautious about running A/B tests from paid on the main product feature landing pages, because if something goes wrong, then that's pretty risky versus it being contained to a query or a segment of our paid audience. We also cannot control the navigation as carefully as we can with just a paid landing page. So what I really like about paid specific landing pages is that they usually take out everything you can click on but the conversion motion. And so if you're going to go forward, you have no choice but to go into the flow that they want you to go into. Whereas the page that you're looking at, Loren, there's like links all over the place. You can click on the footer, all those footer links that we were talking about. You can go right, you can go left, up, down. And so I think it's a case of know what you're trying to accomplish with each page from each query and choose your adventure accordingly versus going all in on either style of paid landing page.
Excellent. Yeah, all of those footer links might be great for SEO, but they can be distractions on the PPC side, especially when you want someone to look at the page with blinders on and only do one thing and not like hop around the site. I can definitely see that. See that.
Exactly. But I feel like every time we talk about an SEO strategy, there are pros and cons, right? Like, we live in a very nuanced world, and that's one of the really fun things about growth marketing and SEO and paid. And so there's never one size fits all answer. You take what works, you adapt, and you keep trying stuff.
We have a couple of minutes left. Are there any final talking points that you'd like to bring up, whether it's a tip or anything else that you learned from this, especially on the linking side, the SEO side, or anything like that?
I did want to call out the person responsible for the pre-launch strategy, because I realized I forgot to say his name earlier. His name is Alan Santion, and I don't know if he's a sneakerhead. I'll have to ask him if he got it from Nike, but he's the mastermind behind that strategy.
Awesome. Alan Santion?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
Anything
on your end, Justin?
I think the one thing is just don't just look at the MSV. People can get excited about how much ranking or how much traffic you might be able to get. You really want to dig down and really find, like we were talking about earlier, Loren, like the idea of what are the modifiers? Like, how can I create the page as best as possible based on these modifiers, a grouping of these modifiers, if you will. I think that's I think that's so important. And one thing you said earlier that I thought was interesting, which is why I like the challenge of doing this at HubSpot and helping to build this team, is that link building does have a bad rep. Anybody, I always like to start off meetings like, let me know what you think about, like in the chat, tell us what you think link building is, or what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about link building? And people think it's like transactional. They think it's spammy. And at HubSpot, before the link building team, I was on Academy for 6 years creating education. And one thing that I'm super interested in is figuring things out and then teaching others how to do it. So right now we're figuring things out. We're getting these CMS free pages launched. We're working to get them optimized. But in the future, our goal is very much to teach everybody how to be a link building strategist at your organization in an inbound way, and sort of like flipping what it means to do link building from transactional spamminess to relationship driven approach. So look for that in the future from us.
Thank you. And thank you for still calling it link building. I know so many folks are like, oh, it's not, oh, we can't call it that. It's called acquisition. Like acquisition sounds more spammier to me than building. At least building, you're like rolling up your sleeves and putting something together. Acquiring is probably the most like transactional term there is. So I really love the building. I just love the fact that, first of all, you still call it link building, because I don't know how that ever got a bad rap from just like just a nomenclature standpoint. And then secondly, the fact that your position at the company, Justin, is head of link building is just even better. So congrats on keeping that term alive, because we are building something here. We're not we're not just acquiring. So awesome. And there's many ways to build something. Like, so going back to your example of like, there's lots of flows on how to get to the page, but once you get to it, you're at the end, no matter how you got there. Same thing on the link building side. It can be via outreach. It can be via working with your partners. It can be internal link building. It can be, whatever really works for setting up templates or resource pages for different verticals that you work with. There's a higher chance you'll utilize it. So it can be really whatever is working for you. And there's not like one answer to everything. So I'm happy that you still learn to use a term if you can't tell, but also really happy that we had the chance to go over this case study today on launching a new product. So, getting product buy-in in the beginning, having SEO integrated into the overall strategy, having, search terms and search volume being part of it, internal linking, setting up a coming soon page, so you can basically get everything ready and then pop the cork in Google once you go live. And then everything else that we talked about today. So I really enjoyed having the both of you on, Asia and Justin. I dropped your LinkedIn profiles in the chat. So those of you who are watching this on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc., feel free to connect with Justin or Asia over at HubSpot to learn more about this program. And then also, just to let all of you know, this episode of the SEJShow is available on all those channels, and we'll be dropping the audio and the recap next week. Asia, who we just lost, and Justin, it's been a real pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciated it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to the team at HubSpot for being so transparent about this launch. Asia, you're back. I was just saying.
Sorry about that.
Just saying what a pleasure it was to have you today. Thanks to the team at HubSpot for being so transparent about this launch and case study around CMS free. Also, I'd like to thank our sponsors of today's episode, Paved and Wix. So give both of them, check both of them out when you have a chance. And again, it's been great. So thank you so much to both of you. Have a great day, and see you all next week on the SEJShow.
Thanks, Loren. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Search Engine Journal Show. If you liked this episode, subscribe to our channel for so much more and click the notification bell so you don't miss a thing.